Death does not diminish the memory of the beaming smile and the twinkle in the eyes. And outside the hospital where Nelson Mandela lay, the crowds have been intent on celebrating a life as much as mourning his death. It was a life richly lived, but one in which Nelson Mandela was prepared to give up everything, including his freedom, for what he believed.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks on an unarmed and defenseless people.
It's a belief for which he spent 10,053 days in prison, a time that history proved served only to make this man and his cause stronger. For the public through decades, Nelson Mandela was a face on a poster, his words outlawed and found only in banned books and faded newsreel footage that few in South Africa ever saw. That changed in February 1990, when he walked out of prison and returned to his beloved Soweto as a free man. Among his first words, a tribute to those who'd waged the battle against apartheid beyond the prison walls.
I have spoken about freedom in my lifetime. Your struggle, your commitment, and your discipline has released me to stand before you today.
Mandela led the negotiations with a government that had kept him in prison for so long, finding in National Party leader F.W. de Klerk a man with whom he could do business. But it was a process continually threatened by rampant violence, and the smile disappeared as the ANC leader publicly berated those he held responsible, including F.W. de Klerk. Yet for Mandela, the process was never personal.
We are not dealing with a man, with an individual. We are dealing with a government. We are dealing with a system. We are dealing with a party.
As the country was pushed and pulled towards democracy, Mandela and F.W. de Klerk were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Then, on the 27th of April 1994, South Africans of all political persuasions and all colours went to the polls. Among them, an incandescent Nelson Mandela, voting for the first time. He became the president of a country in which he had once been an outlaw, one in which, he said, the people now governed.
On this day, you, the people, took your destiny into your own hands. You decided that nothing would prevent you from exercising your hard-won right to elect a government of your choice.
After one term as president, Mandela did what few leaders in the continent had done before, stepping down with humour and with grace.
The time has come to hand over the baton.
But at the age of 78, Mandela embarked on a new phase of public life, tirelessly working to raise money for various charities, arbitrating in a number of political conflicts no matter who was involved. And no apparent sign of loneliness in a man who'd been single since divorcing his second wife, Winnie, a marriage that had survived Nelson Mandela's imprisonment, but not his freedom. And then at the age of 80, Mandela married again. The bride was Graça Machel, a famous figure in her own right. It was a union celebrated by all.
My wife and I
a union that lasted for the rest of Nelson Mandela's life.
My wife and I say thank you very much.
En daar is hij dan toch, Nelson Mandela.
But before he died, there was a chance for the world to thank him. On a chilly winter's night, Nelson Mandela made his last major public appearance, acknowledging the roars of the crowd and stirring hearts around the globe as a World Cup football final was held for the first time in Africa. the stadium a couple of miles away from the modest Soweto home where Nelson Mandela began his long struggle for liberation. As Mandela's health failed, he was in and out of hospital, spending his 95th birthday in intensive care while countless millions prayed for him. The principal cause of illness, a lung infection that he'd first contracted decades ago while working as a prisoner in the stone quarry of Robben Island. He spent 87 days during his final stay in hospital. Then the government announced he'd returned to his Johannesburg home, his condition remaining stable but critical. Until the very last breath, Mandela continued to fight the odds, as he had done all of his life. Nelson Mandela's legacy is found in the colours of a democratic South Africa that were emblazoned in the sky on the day of his inauguration all those years ago. But above all, the legacy is found in the minds of ordinary South Africans, black and white, the people he led to freedom. Mike Hanna, Al Jazeera.